Most of the time, we think of our resources, we think of what we currently have. We don't think of what we need to run the business we want. Don't just kind of get narrow focused on like, well, this year I'll charge more money, and next year, then I'll charge more money, and then I'll charge more. Like, that's not a business plan. What will it take to run this thing the way that I want to run it? You can look way into the future. You can say, like, in 5 years, I want to be here. What is the resources needed to run that business?
Get right in my bag. Why you gonna try to get mad? Everybody wanna keep up. Don't you know I move too fast? I'ma zip right past. Drip all on my swag.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Wedding Film School Show. My name is Jared, and before we hop in, I just wanted to remind you, because we always leave this part for the end of the podcast. Did you know that we currently are doing weekly film critiques? It's either Jason, myself, or Bobby, and we go through and we pick probably 4 to 5 different wedding films. A couple weeks ago, we did websites, and it's a great time of learning and hopefully an opportunity for you even to submit your own wedding film or website for us, for the team to critique, as well as everyone else who watches live. We find it's just a great opportunity for the whole community to grow and learn from one another. And it's just a fun time overall. Pour a drink and make sure you join us. We are currently doing these Thursdays at 9 p.m., but that's subject to change. So make sure that you're just checking out and staying in tune with all the latest films.
Well, I know one way they can stay up to tune.
How's that, Jay?
They could subscribe, and hit that alert bell
that is
on
true.
YouTube, and then they'll be up to tune.
Yeah.
They could also go on Facebook and join our Facebook group.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that we do. Like for us, like the podcast, we just like to get into the content. We forget to do all this promotional stuff. but you know, we like connecting with you guys on the show, and we like connecting with you guys in the live setting, because then it's more interactive. So
Yeah.
definitely check it out.
And I definitely wanted to say too, we appreciate all of those who have stuck with us. I know the Wedding Film School Show is kind of a new thing in wedding film school land. And a lot of people, I know it's a change of pace, especially on YouTube, when you're used to seeing one very specific thing, and now it's like, hey, my inbox is a whole
Where's
bunch
Craig
of...
Apples?
Where's Craig? Where's Craig Rar Appletons? Or Adamsons? And so
Craig Adam with the C.
It's an inside joke where every time someone wants Craig Adams, they spell his name wrong.
It's like, I love Craig Adams. They can't even spell his name. It's like,
we love that guy.
you love him. You're psyched up.
But yeah, we do appreciate you sticking with us. Hopefully this has been helpful for some of you who want to do kind of more of a deep dive into your wedding film business, and learn from other people, as well as Jason and myself. We've been running a wedding film business for 12 years at this point.
I'm super grateful for this opportunity to get to do this whole wedding film school thing, because it's an important part of the wedding education ecosphere. It's meant a lot to a lot of people. So we want to do you proud. We want to do a good job. So with that in mind, let's start with a really highbrow segment.
Okay, yeah. Let's do this segment. This is actually, I think it might be my favorite segment right now. It's called The Wedding Film School Would You Rather? Still got to work on that. We got to actually put in the time and actually put in some good ones. I want some like clown and circus type music. Oh yeah, smooth jazz. Yeah,
This is a good groove.
yeah.
All right, let's do this.
So today we're gonna do Would You Rather, and we're both gonna give each other a question today. So the first one I'm gonna give to Jay. Jason, would you rather have Chub rub on a wedding day, or would you rather have a sprained ankle throughout a wedding day?
What is Chub rub?
Okay, so let's premise with what is Chub rub. Chub rub is that thing where you're chafing kind of in an area where your pants meet. And you know, it's very common when shooting a wedding, especially in warmer climates, to have a little bit of chub rub going on.
So chafing, or what's the other one?
Or a sprained ankle on a wedding day. These are both things that I've encountered.
See, here's my thing about that is like, I feel like the chafing is inevitable and a sprained ankle is avoidable. And so I think I would rather have the chafing, because the sprained ankle, I'm not sure I could do my job as well.
I've done it. It's hard. And it's a different type of pain. I'll
Yeah.
just say that. And also, with a sprained ankle, there's not as much adjusting going on. So it's like there's also the public kind of like perception where you're,
Yeah.
adjusting the crotch on a wedding day isn't necessarily
It's not the best.
professional.
But
you
at
need
the
to
end
find a
of
corner and,
at the end of the day, though, for me, if I couldn't I'm forgetting a lot of things. Oh no, I got to get over there. Oh, my ankle. I don't want to be in that situation.
no, it's not good. Neither are.
No.
But I respect your answer. I think it's probably what I would
One of
answer
them you
as
can
well.
just get through, with a little self-discipline.
Yeah. And a lot of arm and hammer.
Arm and See, I'm not a arm and hammer guy.
No,
at
it
a
gives you
wedding.
cancer. So, I mean, apparently.
Good for me. But I know that a lot of people that's an essential part of their wedding filmmaking kit.
Yeah.
It's arm and hammer, which is always never been a thinking part for me. So here's my would you rather
Great.
for you. Would you rather forget that you had a wedding and show up late?
Yeah.
And this is with let's say, would you rather forget you had a wedding and not even shoot it? Or shoot a wedding and lose all the footage?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. I have to think about that. Hard. Okay, so this is what I would say. I would probably rather shoot the wedding because I could prove myself to a couple, I'm here, I'm responsible, I'm trying hard. And then blaming the technology is always a shoe-in bet of oh, this damn camera broke or whatever, as opposed to it being fully on your shoulders that I was just an idiot.
You know what's funny about that is I get people lose things.
Yeah.
But it also is your fault. If you don't
yeah.
back stuff up,
No,
and you don't have
totally.
multiple copies,
If-
they don't know that though. The client doesn't know that.
Yes. The client doesn't know that, but at least you would be this, and you could doubly blame it on the technology. And yes, I think as a professional, it is my fault. And I feel horribly because it would be my fault.
I think I would agree with your perspective as well. Both would be nightmare scenarios.
Yeah.
Can you believe that we've never lost someone's footage? Really?
No, we haven't really lost it. We've been able to recover it.
Yeah,
Is
we had
probably-
a problem one time, but
Yes.
we've never lost a wedding of all the weddings we've done. If you're listening to this, we've done over 700 weddings
Yes,
probably.
750 something. Yeah.
And we've never lost someone's footage. Mm-hmm. So, like I said,
Knock on
Knock
this
on wood.
huge ass wood table.
yeah. All right. So that's would you rather.
Comment of what would you rather? Would you rather in the comment section?
Yeah, give us some good would you rathers down there
Yeah.
because wedding days are.
Let's be honest, it's just for traffic. We want to hear your opinion.
We just
below.
really need to just build up our clicks, the YouTube algorithm.
Comment
wants it.
section.
Even if you just write I hate you in the comments,
Or thumbs down. Someone always, every time we post a new video, someone immediately thumbs downs us. So
they don't even watch it.
thank you for your thumbs down because the value for YouTube is exactly the same.
That's not true.
It isn't?
No.
It is.
Its comments are.
I thought it was thumbs down or thumbs up gives you
No.
the same amount of promotion.
Maybe that's true.
Yeah?
I'll look that up, and if you're right, I'll leave it in. And
Yeah.
if you're wrong, I'll cut it out.
Okay.
Does your wedding filmmaking business offer live streaming? Maybe you're just looking to get into live streaming. Wherever you find yourself today, one of the most overlooked elements of a successful live stream is securing a rock-solid connection to your final destination. In that case, you should check out the LiveU Solo. The LiveU Solo offers bonded cellular streaming, which combines up to 4 separate internet connections into a single, fully redundant connection. Live stream with confidence to any platform from basically any location. This thing is battery powered, they're plug and play, and they're supported by LiveU's innovative LRT service. The LiveU Solo is perfect for any event videographer that needs an easy, on-the-go, reliable stream. Get one today. So we've been doing a series, guys, called Your Business Plan Sucks. And last week we had Craig Adams on. Go check that one out if you want to hear the founder of Wedding Film School. It's a really cool interview. But we've been kind of going through Your Business Plan Sucks. And your business plan actually might be awesome, by the way. But most of ours probably sucks as wedding creatives, right?
Yeah.
So we wanted to talk through thinking about creating a business plan for your wedding creative business. And we've been breaking down the elements of a good business plan. And so just to recap, like a business plan is basically just a document that outlines where you're going with your business. And hopefully when we kind of get through these episodes, we're going to hopefully give you a picture of how to create your business plan. And you're going to be able to take some of the lessons you've learned, kind of put it all and apply it towards a business plan. So keep in mind, that's where we're headed with all this stuff. The first episode in this series, we talked about your business model, which is how your kind of business operates, how it generates wealth, and the things that goes into a good business model. And this week, we're going to talk about your personal resources, or the resources that your business needs to run, right?
Right, Jay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, to somebody who is new, I guess, to running a business, what would, the resources section be? Because I'll admit, when I first looked at this, I was like, okay, maybe someone out there is just starting. They're like, I have zero resources. And so is that necessarily true, even if you're just kind of getting started?
No, I mean, the resources, just to make it simple, if you're running a business, let's imagine it's a hot dog stand, and that's what you want to run. And we don't often think of our businesses like hot dog stands, but it's a simple type of business model.
Sure.
And it has resources, right? So you need a stand, you need the inventory to make the food. You, of course, need a certain amount of time per day to warm up your hot dogs and a certain amount of time per day to clean up your hot dogs. You
mean you can't run a hot dog stand if you're indoors playing video games all day?
And it doesn't instantly transport there.
Yes.
Like, it doesn't just, when you open at noon, suddenly it appears there.
That'd be a sweet business, actually.
It would be a sweet business. No, it takes hours to set up and hours to clean. You need a place to put it. You need maybe some relationships in the industry, some suppliers to give you the hot
someone
dogs
in the
you
city
need.
council that you're sneaking money to.
And you also need
too.
to make good hot dogs that people want to eat, that people like. And so, like, in terms of a wedding business, right, most of the time we think of our resources. First of all, we think of what we currently have. We don't think of what we need to run the business we want. And I think that's kind of one of the biggest changes we want to make in people's mind is getting wedding professionals to not just look at what they have now and not even just go like, if only I could do, like, I think there's this one path people go on, which is like, I'm going to start shooting elopements or destination or something glamorous. And there's nothing wrong with that, but because they're perfectly viable forms of business. But I want people to just be thinking, okay, don't just kind of get narrow focused on like, well, this year I'll charge more money, and next year, then I'll charge another more money, and then I'll charge more. Like, that's not a business plan. Is every year charge more money. That's good. If you can pull it off, awesome. But think about other things beyond just every year I charge more money. And to think about our businesses the same way you might think of a hot dog stand, which is what will it take to run this thing the way that I want to run it? Like, you can look way into the future. You can say, like, in 5 years, I want to be here, and think, like, what is the business needed to run? What is the resources needed to run that business? Yeah. So we're talking time, money, gear, relationships, and then proof of work.
Would you say it's fair to say, that charging more money isn't a business model, but maybe it's a fraction of the business model?
Yeah. I think everything is part of your business model. It's not in itself a business plan, by the way, not business model.
That's right.
It's in your business plan. How much you want to charge should be in your business plan. And because it's important to where you want to be, because it creates the margins that you want and all these things. But it shouldn't just be charge more just because that's what someone on a podcast told you to do. It should be charge more because it's going to help you hit goal X or goal Y.
Charging more will allow you to buy a better camera, that will allow you to have a better reel, that will allow you to get in front of a better planner.
Or it'll allow you to shoot the amount of weddings you want to shoot, to have the lifestyle you want, or to have the profit margins that you want, or to invest in, God forbid, like we actually talk about like 401ks and saving money. Like, if you think of it this way, if every year you have to spend 20 grand on gear and every year you need 60 grand to live, you're living hand to mouth.
Yeah.
If you're making 80 grand,
Yep.
if you're making, and then if you start making 120 grand, what do you do with that? Do you put
Exactly.
it back in the business? Do you invest it? What do you do with it? And it's like your business model will help you kind of navigate. There are perils of failure, of course, but it's easier to run a business that's not doing well or growing than it is to run a business that's kind of hit a certain plateau. And a business plan will go like this. Now, when you hit this milestone, this is how you get to this next one. Like, even if you're not totally clear, at least it gives you like some clarity. So we're looking at resources, right? And what I want you to do, if you're listening to this, is we have a little sheet in the description. And if you go to our website, weddingfilm.school/resources. Again, if you're listening, weddingfilm.school/resources. If you go there, I want you to look at this form and there's a downloadable that goes with this episode. And there's going to be 2-3 pages on it. And one of the sections is going to be a current resources inventory checklist. And what I want you to do is look and just before you listen to the rest of the episode, ideally, because I think it'll be a nice experiment for you, write down the resources that you have. Write down, and this is the resources you have to make your product, right? To make what you want to make. So like the time it takes you and the time you have. Maybe you're like, well, I work part-time, right? So you might say like, okay, I have 10, 12 hours on a Saturday, and then I'm editing 20 hours a week on top of my other 40 hours. That, by the way, good job if you're working that hard, but maybe whatever it is, kind of inventory that. Your money that you're willing to put in, money that you have to put into it. Maybe there's zero. Maybe you're like, oh, I got $5,000 that I'm putting in, and then it's going into my marketing. Who knows? The gear that you have, I have these 2 cameras, blah, blah, blah. The relationships you have that are part of your business, that's part of your resources, the contacts that you have in the industry that help you get work and run your business. And then what is your portfolio like? And this is a little trickier, but I think it's just important to kind of take stock of the quality of a portfolio and what are the strengths and weaknesses of it. Is it showing off the things that you want or not? And kind of just taking stock of that. And so do that. Pause the episode and then come back to us. So I'll give you a minute. Okay, they're back. They just did it. Let's talk about these resources a little bit, Jared.
When we first started breaking these down, I don't think I realized how much these resources kind of played into our business personally. So this has been a plus for even us trying to whittle down, because we actually go through and we're like, oh yeah, these are the areas that we're struggling with personally. So I think, and I think a good common kind of theme for this episode and this whole series is just, you're never finished with this. You're never finished kind of taking stock in your resources and trying to decide where your pressure points are and where your points of pain are, right?
Well, and like the synergy between the first two is really interesting to me, because we're going to talk time, money, right? Time versus money, time in concert with money, they're like forever entwined, right? It's like if one of your resources that you have, or one of the resources required for your business, is a certain amount of hours that you just don't have, then you're going to have to spend money to get like that time back. If you don't have money, it's going to cost time. And if you don't have time, it's going to cost money.
Yeah. I think where a lot of people are when they're at least first starting out, and again, this isn't just for people who are starting out. This is also for people that have been doing their business forever. But when you're first starting out, you're probably part-time, right? You probably have a side job or a full-time job, and you're doing this on the weekends. And it's a lot harder to find time. But it's probably hard to find time no matter who you are. But when you first start out, you're like, hey, I'm going to shoot this wedding on the weekend. When do I have time to edit it? It's like 10 o'clock to midnight, and then I go to bed. Like, so taking stock of the actual hours that you have to be able to, put towards whatever you're going to be creating.
Well, and even the hours that are required.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
when you're first starting out, you probably don't even know what that time is.
Yeah.
How many hours you're going to need to put in.
And so when we're thinking about this, I did want to say a lot of this you're going to be guessing, and that's okay. Like at least having a range of what you're aiming for is important. And then of course recalibrating. So like if you go like, oh, I want to spend 20 hours on editing a highlight film, a 5 to 7 minute highlight film. You might find that you could do it much quicker. You might find that you can't do it much quicker. You might find that you're terrible at editing in a quick way and that you're costing yourself money.
Yeah.
So let's talk about timing, because I like this first thing. The first thing you need to take stock of and evaluate when you're creating your business plan and you're looking at your resources is your time resources. This is not just the time that you have. This is the time that is required to make a profitable business operate. This will take some experience, I think, to get exactly right.
Well, it's important for people to do. What is important for people to do is actually take stock of the time it took you on the last project. And this is something I think a lot of creatives don't do.
No.
Especially when you're first starting out. I saw in a Facebook group the other day, like, I have no idea how much to charge per hour. And again, that's that correlation between time and money. And that's just due to people just don't keep track. It's like whenever you're editing, you're just editing till 1 o'clock in the morning sometimes, and you're just like, oh, tomorrow I'll finish it.
Well, they think
or
of it
whatever.
as like
but it's important to actually be like, well, this actually took me all in all 5 hours. And a lot of us too. I mean, this is how I am, is like, I'm so ADD that I'll work on something and then I'm doing email and then I'm doing this and whatever. And like, I think it's important for you to like work at just actually being focused enough to be able to keep track of what this timing looks like.
One of the things that I like to do when it comes to this is just spot evaluation. I don't track everything, but every once in a while, track it. Just take a few sample sizes throughout your year, and just kind of like, oh, that was an average wedding, so this wedding I'm gonna track it. Maybe like 20% of your weddings that you're editing, you're tracking. And as long as like I'm not wildly diverting or changing how I'm doing things just to hit my timer, like you probably will end up doing it very similar. Like with our guys, I have a time I'm looking for. I don't look at every one of their weddings. I kind of just average it out. I look at 10, 12 weddings and go like, yeah, we're pretty close to where we want to be. And then we have this discussion every year. We're like, what can we do to be faster? We picked our song. Because a lot of things with time is like, when you do something can be just as important as how long it takes to do something. So like for us, we're seasonal, right?
Right.
So we have almost no weddings, very few from like November to April, pretty much. I have a lot of time to, for instance, choose songs for my wedding films for the upcoming season. At least from like a create playlists and do selects and stuff. That time is during the wedding season when I'm editing and I have a deadline is very poorly spent doing that. So something that's a good investment of your time in certain parts of your year might be a bad investment of your time. All things are not always equal, right? When you have a deadline pressing on you. So I think this is an interesting one because time is not an infinite resource, right? People think of it as like a thing that they have infinite of.
I think this is an area too where, you people that want to get into corporate work, you quickly realize that they are very good at keeping track of how much time they spend on a certain project because it's how they bill. It's like, I'm going to shoot for 4 or 6 or 8 hours, full day rate, and then I'm going to edit, and then I'm going to send the client a bill. It's different in the wedding industry where you're essentially billing them up front, and then the rest of the time you can just be as efficient or lazy as you want to be, and you determine what your hourly rate is there.
Yeah.
So, it's if you want to get into corporate work, get good at keeping track of how much time you're spending on these things because it will translate in that field and in that world.
I would say to everyone, the time resources that you have and the time resources that you think it will cost you probably aren't going to match up right away. This will take some calibration and figuring it out. But I do want you to think about your time as money. I know it's an old cliche, time is money, but it really is. And like, if you are spending, I always do this with someone. They go, how much should I charge for this? And I go, okay, how much time does it take you to do? Okay, well, how many hours do you have to sell? I need 2 hours a week or 1 hour, 30 minutes or whatever it is per wedding I book to sell that wedding. Then I need 10 hours to shoot the wedding. Then I need 20 hours to edit the wedding. Take that number, divide it by how much you charged the client, And if you really want to get detailed, add in all your cost as well. That's how much you should be charging per hour. And when you are slower than that, you are making less per hour because you are able to produce less time or less money with the time you have. And that's really all the equation is. How much money can I produce with the time I'm going to put into this business every week? If you have 30 hours to put into your business and you could make twice as much money if you just changed a few of your habits or outsourced, you're just leaving money on the table. And so time will help you get there. And so most creatives are bleeding money because they have poor time management.
Yeah.
I really think that.
So goes the endless tale of creatives. All of us.
all of us. And, you know, for us, we oftentimes don't have time. So the next one is really critical for us, which is what are the financial resources, the money factor that I think is one of the resources you need to look at when you are creating your business plan. It's a very important resource. Why do you think in some business models that are set up, the business plan is like, okay, this is the capital needed to start this thing up. Like, that's how normal, like, businesses run. They look and they create capital, they raise capital, they work with... And in wedding filmmaking, we don't think about money hardly at all. It's not making money. We just want to make money, but... Yeah.
But as far as, like, investing upfront...
How much does it cost? How much do I need to spend to run this business?
Sure, yeah. Well, I think it just comes down to a lot of people getting into it aren't business minded. They are thinking about their creative, avenues first and foremost. And so that's why we got into the business. We want cool cameras and we want to create cool art with our cool cameras. And therefore we got into it and we were just like, let's just max out our credit cards and get into it. That was the first step that we took.
Great business model for us.
Yeah. Well, it worked out. So I would say it can work, but probably not the most ideal.
Let me tell you actually what I actually did, just so people know. Because it's funny, now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, we did do this with money. I said, how much money do I need to make to pay this off?
Sure.
Because the truth was, I looked at it and said, like, oh, this is a lot of money. Right? Do I want to take this risk on a credit card? And I'm not recommending everyone gets a credit card, but I did think about the money and I said, all I got to do is book like 3 jobs.
Yep.
And then I can, and then sell it if it doesn't work and I just pay off the debt. And so like I'm giving myself the financial startup capital to run this business and get it going. If you're starting up, that is more of a meaningful story. If you're already operating a business, maybe not. But it is interesting. It's like we often don't think about that. For people who are running their business, do you think a lot of wedding creatives really think about the need to infuse the business with cash on a regular basis?
It's hard for me to say because we don't run our business that way. I think it's different for somebody who is running their business as a solo operator. It's like, oh, I made $30,000 more this year. Now I'm going to buy a car. Or for me personally, that's what it always kind of seems like. Pay off my mortgage
more or something.
But yeah, and it's like I'm going to take it to my personal, account. And I was having a conversation with someone the other day about this because I think it is kind of interesting because, having money in the bank account, the business bank account, just to have it there, I think is kind of useless. Like to just have it there as like I would say you should have a plan for what that money is going to be. Coronavirus being one of them. I think if I was running my business personally, though, and maybe this is a point that you and I could, debate, I would rather almost have that money, if it was just me running it, in my personal bank account, because then people couldn't go after my business account. Like,
I don't debate that.
Yeah.
I think putting money into your savings, I mean, personal budgeting is always, if you're a solopreneur, like, that's why you're running your business.
Yeah.
It's to make money. Like,
exactly.
You shouldn't feel bad about that. I do think you need to take stock of, you shouldn't take it all home. I don't think anyone should do that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. It's not about the money in the bank account. Like I would spend it.
Yeah.
Saying like, you should try to think through what are my financial resources that I'm willing to contribute to this business,
mm-hmm.
and what are the needed. And I'm like, if you're starting out, maybe you have a pile of cash.
Yep.
Right? That can go into a lot of things. Getting a space, maybe you need an office, maybe you need marketing, maybe you need more cameras.
Yep.
You know, and then if you're running it, it's like, okay, what are the things every year I break a lens, every year I do like,
Yep.
you have to be considering, I mean, we're going to talk in another episode about budgeting. But one of the resources your business needs to live is cash. It's not just your talent, your time. It does require cash. And I think for me, that's the most important thing to impress upon people is you need to buy insurance. You need to, your business should be paying for these things. Like, and it needs to be built into the business plan.
Yep.
Enough money to pay for the business to operate. Like, you can't be paying out of your own pocket for your office space. And I know they'll be like, well, I mean, they're the same. I'm like, no, your pocket is not the same as your business's pocket. If I need to make $80,000 salary to pay for my mortgage and live, then my business needs $20,000 a year for marketing, rent, gear. I need to make a lot more than $80,000 because the business has to eat and my kids got to eat.
Yep.
And I think that's really what is important to me is getting people to think about that.
It's a combination of, to me, it's a combination of feeding the beast, you know,
Yep.
feeding the business.
I always say you got to feed the baby.
And then also, the thing about money is it's the great problem solver, right? So it's like, if I need a problem to go away, I can always spend money on it. And so that's
If you
where I
have
think,
it.
if you have it, that's why I would say, you know, don't, if you are a solopreneur, take it home. That's the point, is to feed yourself, feed your family, to make profit. You know, Mike McCowitz talks about that in Profit First. Take the money home. That's the whole point of the whole thing. Don't feel guilty about that. But then also, you know, have enough money, and only you can really decide what that correct amount of money is to be able to solve problems.
I think I'll say it this way. If you're new and you're starting out, being conservative is probably the way to go financially. Basically, you want to spend as little as possible to run your business. I don't think that's what that is. We can debate, but I think little as possible is pretty much what you want to do when you're starting out.
And we'll dive in a little bit more as to how much, or maybe ratios in a previous.
Yeah, we'll have an episode later about budgeting.
A little later on.
But I will say, for those of you that are listening and you're creating a business plan off of a business that's operating, you are probably, and you're hitting a wall. If you're hitting a wall, you probably are hitting the time money wall, where your time can no longer, you're out of time to produce money. So you need to start spending money to produce time. And that is going to change the financial resources required in your business, which, if we want to talk about raising prices, that's when you start going, I have to raise prices. I have to raise prices to produce the income needed to buy myself more time.
This is the wall I think most entrepreneurs face. It's probably the first big hurdle for a lot of entrepreneurs, where, you know, how often do you hear about, like, the business owner, he's running his own business, is never at home with the wife and kids.
Sure.
Is never, because they're just like giving all their time to the business and not trusting, you know, the money to handle,
Or they don't
freeing up their time.
They don't have a business model that makes enough money. They're not charging enough.
Yep.
They're not. They're spending in the wrong areas. Whatever it is, like, it's almost always a good investment to spend money on things that give you back time. My opinion, I always say, if I spend $1,300 on, we're talking about the 18 Mini Extreme. I bought this thing. Love this thing, by the way. It's so dope. It will save me about 2 hours a week. I value my time at about $150 an hour. I think I'm trying to produce that with commercial or whatever I do. That's how I value it. So when I look at it, I go, by buying this, if I save 2 hours a week, I can make this money back in no time just by having 2 more hours to do other stuff. And I think most likely a wedding creatives, if you're listening and you're like in that 3-year, 5-year kind of place of your business, you probably need to start putting a little more cash back into the business, whether it be through third party or hiring someone or buying a NAS that actually does your backups for you. All these things will give you back the time you need in order to do the social media, build the portfolio, build the relationships, all that stuff. So time, money, they're kind of the same, but they're different, and they have some different ways of solving your problems. The third thing, and this is very centered on filmmakers and photographers because I wouldn't use this word for another business, but I'm fine saying it. The third thing that you need to look at as a resource for your business is your gear. We love talking about gear, right?
Yeah. Is this where we do a gear talk?
We could do a little gear talk.
No, we don't have to do a gear talk.
No, I mean, we're going to talk gear. Like we were talking about before this, like this is the gear that you need to run the business that you... This is interesting, actually. The business you want or the business that is a good business?
I think it's a great question. I think it's the crux of the wedding creative. The question that they're asking is, what kind of equipment do I want? Is it the brand new, Sony Alpha 1? or what
Fujifilm
camera,
GFX?
Or what camera do I need, essentially? What gear do I need in order to have a profitable
What does that
business?
even mean to say I need gear? When I say I need this gear, I think that's a very interesting statement because you do need gear. You do need to keep spending money on gear. Like this whole, gear doesn't matter. It's like, okay, if your camera breaks, you need a new one. That's how you make a living. So I need this gear. Evaluating that question, I think, is one of the most challenging things for wedding creatives because there's buying something new. There's always this idea in your head that either you're going to unlock some magic talent that you didn't know that you had, like, oh, I just got this GFX large format sensor from Fuji as a photographer, or I just got the A1 and the autofocus is so good. And we'll even try to convince ourselves that we're producing way better work.
Or that all of a sudden, as soon as you buy it, it comes in from B&H, like the planner in your nearby city just calls you the day of and is like, I heard you got a new piece of gear and I want to hire. Never happens.
You posted one medium format image and I really noticed the bokeh was so much better.
Yeah.
And there is some truth to it because we're artists, we're craftsmen, women. And you can't separate your emotional connection to your gear. And so there's a couple of things about it. There's gear you need that you need because something broke, like maintenance. You need a camera. You can't not have a camera, and eventually all your cameras will break or stop working or need to be replaced. There's that kind of gear. There's gear you need to keep up with market demand that will not necessarily generate more revenue, but will keep you from losing revenue. We were talking about 4K. I'm not sure we're there yet as a business, but me and you we don't shoot 4K weddings on our main product until this year.
Yep.
And I'll tell you why we didn't do it, because it didn't make me any money.
Yep.
And it cost me a lot of money.
Yep.
But I knew it was gonna have to change. So probably 3 years ago, we started planning and strategizing and thinking through what is this transition gonna look like to 4K. Now we might make a little bit more money, be able to, because it does cost more. So I don't mind charging more because it costs more, but I'm not necessarily making a more profit by doing 4K necessarily. Maybe some people are, we're probably not gonna. That is a type of thing that your business requires, right? That it's not going to make you a lot more money, but you have to do it because the market demands it. And I think the third thing is gear that you invest in that allows you to charge more money, right? You need it to live streaming. If you buy a YOLO box, link below, go ahead and buy one, supports our channel, or an ATEM Mini, and you add live streaming capabilities, you might add $20,000, $30,000 to your bottom line. And I think those are the three ways I look at gear. It's what do I need? Maintenance kind of purchases, keeping up with the Joneses type purchases, market demand purchases, and then ones that will actually start moving the needle towards charging more. And I think if we're being honest, the third category is what most of us justify our purchases with and is the least true.
Well, actually, I was going to say, with live streaming, we've already made back probably 2-3 times what we've spent on.
But most people don't do that. Most people are I need 7 new lenses, I need a new gimbal, I need a new and you were talking about before. You're well, why would I want to do that? I can make all the same money with my Mark III, my Canon 5D Mark III. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You will not make $1 more by buying a new gimbal. Mm-hmm. The client doesn't care if you have a 6-year-old Crane 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about that gas suppression, man. It's about keeping that what is it, Pepto-Bismol for your gas, dude. Like, but right now we're going through it where we're switching over to all Fujifilm, like you mentioned. And the question in my mind is, okay, I really like the Crane Weeble, the lab. We only need the Crane Weeble. I'd like everyone to have the same exact crane or stabilizer, gimbal. Why don't I just buy all, Weeble? And I'm like, I really don't need to. Am I just doing this so it's easier for me?
How much easier is it really?
How much easier is it really? Like, because right now, dude, we have 5 different types of gimbals.
I think we have 8 gimbals.
The Crane 3, the Crane 3S. We have the Weeble Lab. We have the.
If you need a gimbal,
Crane
give us a
2.
call. We'll
We
sell you a
have
gimbal.
The Ronin M. We have the Ronin. We have the Ronin S. Like, those are the gimbals that we have, and we have multiples of almost all of them. So, I'm just like, I want to streamline it, make it so I don't have to do training on all these different things. And, at the end of the day, it might be worth it. I haven't done the numbers on it, but I think a lot of people don't even consider, what their numbers are. Is this going to make them more money?
Well,
or save
why
them
are you
money?
buying what the needs of the business are the first thing you need to be evaluating. So our business model, when we think about gear, we're always looking at a couple different things. And this will be maybe different than yours. We have a studio model. We train our teams, and we always think about, first of all, when I buy one, I have to buy multiple because we don't want multiple different kits going out because that's confusing. It's hard to train someone on 7 different gimbals, which is what we're currently doing. Because we're also always trying to find the perfect piece of gear that fits into our workflow, which is like that combination of like durability, speed, quality, where it's like, and so we're always looking at gear in those ways. And when we make like decisions, like this is what we want to do, we typically do like 6 of them, 5 of them. And so and then we're picking up time and we're picking up efficiency. And then of course I can send it with our team and we know it's going to be a better product and more repeatable results. For your business, you might be the only person using that gear. So maybe you don't have some of those considerations, but you need to know why you are making these purchases and what your business really needs to be profitable, like versus what you just want to be happy. And they're not necessarily in competition, but I think it's important to know when you're making a decision because you want to do it and when you're making a decision because it's within your business plan.
Yeah, and another thing that we tend to have a problem with at our company is like, we like the gear, we'll buy a piece of gear, we'll use it for a few weddings, and we're like, meh, and then we just never use it again.
And we don't sell it.
And we don't sell it because that takes time, and eBay's a bitch. But
that's actually why we got involved with wedding film school, so we can just tell you about our used gear, and then we can, in the comments.
yeah, in the comments, if you want to buy a Ronin first generation that tilts sideways, and I can't figure out why it does that.
Or 4 or 5
below.
Canon 5D Mark IVs.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, but also, is it gear that you're gonna pick up and just actually not use and avoiding that trap essentially?
Totally, so. And you don't always know, but I think just evaluating what does my business
the most important part. Yeah,
really need.
Yep.
In order to operate and be a real business, and I think it's okay to look long term here. Like we were talking and debating the 4K versus 1080 thing. If you were starting a business now and you bought a bunch of used 1080 cameras, you could make a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's like, so, it's hard for me to say what everyone should be doing.
That's a great point, is value. And this will be hard. Again, this is hard. If you're just starting out, all this is hard because you don't know. There's so many variables, like, you just don't have information on. Like, if you're first starting out, I'd make an argument that, hey, pick up some Canon Mark IIIs for like $500, find them online, and then, you can make wedding films this summer. You can go out and shoot something that's great. And then, honestly, if you're buying them for $500 now, you could probably buy them for $500 or sell them for $500 and just, break even on your gear and then make money with it in the meantime. Like, I would make an argument as a mentor to somebody. That's maybe what a lot of people should do, because then you're spending $1,000 on 2 cameras and as opposed to, $3,000, you're saving yourself $2,000. That'd be an argument. Whereas if you do buy new gear, that's going to depreciate over time. And so if you sell it in the fall, so there's a lot of things.
The thing I'll tell someone with gear is systems matter. So like if you're like, I want to be on the A7S III. Well, okay, maybe you don't get an A7S III, but at least get buy something where the lenses will match. That will help your business model. Is like if you buy an older Sony, something where you can use the E-mount lenses that you buy for the old thing, and then when you upgrade your body, you just switch them over. I think that thinking through that.
Yeah, this is probably where Jason and I will be the wedding film dads and just be like, you know what, son or daughter,
do you really need that?
Sometimes you just have to, bite the bullet and deal with it for a little bit until you can get what you want and afford that car or video game or whatever it might be. Like, just
save money.
Save money. We'll be a little bit boring and just tell you to save money to freaking deal with it. And this is, you'll never hear this conversation anywhere else in the wedding film industry where we're just talking about looking at gear from this perspective, right? Where it's like, no, we're not going to say just go out and buy the brand new camera that just came out. That's awesome. That looks great. Until you're in a position to really do that. Until you're in a position where if you're at the top of the market, if you're Alex Douglas, if you're Henry Martins or any, Lindsay Conklin at the top of their market, maybe you do need to do that. Maybe you do. Maybe it's life and death. I would even argue up there, your clients probably don't know. They like the work that you did in the past.
I would tend to think there is a place in your business. Like, this changes a lot, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
This changes a lot. There's a place in your business where there's an ebb and flow to this, but you do need to be considering, what do I need? And some of it could be as simple as 3 cameras.
Sure.
I need 3 cameras because I want to do a 3-camera ceremony. Okay, if that's where you're at and that's all you know, great. You have a lot of options, actually. Mm-hmm. Yep. If you're like, it's okay to say, I literally only need 3 cameras and it doesn't matter what they are. Most of us will get more fine-tuned, but we're not telling you need to decide, like, in your business plan is not be a Sony shooter. It doesn't, it's like, it's more about like, I need to deliver a 4K film. I need 3 camera bodies. I need an A cam and two matching BC cams. Like something like that is probably more what you're trying to get at. I need 2 long lenses, 1 short lens. I need to get like more like thinking through categorically what you need, and then trying to figure out what cameras fit that system. Because probably that won't change a lot over the years. You'll just have more money to buy better stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, if you decide to do associates, and bring on teams, like, that does change a little bit, but at least you know what your model is.
And I'll say this, you'll regret saying I have to have all Sony A1s if you want to have to add another team and you have to spend $18,000 on camera bodies to get the same product.
Yep.
So anyway, I think the next one is relationships. The next thing you need to be looking at with your resources is, what is your inventory of relationships? And what are the ones needed to run the business you want? So like, what are the key contacts that a wedding filmmaking and photography business needs to be successful? And I think there's a thing here, which is there are always gaps in our knowledge with this. The more, as you start pursuing, like, okay, the next thing I want to do as a business, you're going to find out, like, I have no idea how to book a wedding at Pelican Hill. I don't know that person. Mm-hmm. Different markets too. Some markets are very planner based. Some markets are very venue based. All these things. But like, what are the relationships you need to book it? And I will say this: like, if you're looking and you're going, well, I want to do this, I don't know how to do it, I don't know the relationships. I think one of the biggest things people starting out is they don't know how the industry works. They don't know who the power players are. They don't know I always say, like, the food chain, like at the watering hole, who drinks first, who's downwind of the other person in the wedding filmmaking world. They don't know all those rules. And so, like, one of the things you might want to do is, when you're looking at this, look at what the types of work you want to do, the type of places you want to work, and then start researching and figuring out, like, say there's a photographer or a filmmaker that works at a place a lot. Just ask them, like, how did you get that gig? Like, it's okay to do a little research here to start creating the idea, and it doesn't have to be that specific. It could just be like planners and venues. But it could be if your business model is like luxury planners, luxury venues, you might need certain contacts.
There's a lot of copy and paste from our last episode about your business model sucks. We're talking about customers, talking about like these people will often be your planners, your photographers, the people that you work with that will refer you, like obviously relationships there. But I would also add one to this relationship part that I think is really valuable, and that's the role of a mentor. So to your point about not knowing what you should know, a mentor will know what you should know. So going out there and actively finding someone, I just had an email this week from a person that was like, I want you to mentor me. I live in the town over next to you. I started a business. It sucked. We had a lot of problems, and I just realized that I need help. I was like, great. I can help you with that.
If you want a mentor, by the way, we have mentorship on our website.
Oh, wow. What a shameless plug, Jay. You shameless plug whore.
Well, I mean, honestly, like I love helping people in this area.
Me too.
This is something I really enjoy, and I think you're gonna find, like, if you're new starting out, that actually a lot of us who have been in the industry a long time really enjoy helping people. Mm-hmm. So,
I have a story, and honestly, I didn't even realize I was being mentored for the company that we would create at the time. But I realized that the industry that I was shooting for ended up not being the industry that I wanted to shoot for, and I ended up changing, the type of shooting that I wanted to do to the industry I wanted to do. So back in about 2009, 2010, I was shooting for Shooters on the Beach. It's a great Biff and the company down there. They're awesome. They do not wedding portraits, but family portraits on the beach. So I'd wake up every morning, 6 a.m., take photos of screaming kids in the morning, and then edit in the afternoon, and then go back at nighttime during sunset and take awesome photos of screaming kids at nighttime. It was awesome. I did enjoy that a lot. But essentially, it allowed us to turn that model, which is a scaling model. They were shooting, he had 5 photographers that we would all huddle together in the day. We'd edit. And then at nighttime, we would all disperse, drive to the different areas we would shoot. And it was a great job. It made good money. And I look at my business now and I'm like, that's Stop, Go, Love. That's what we created. And I didn't even realize I was doing it. But I was just like, I loved that vibe of community, that people that I just really loved joking around with and just like shooting shit with all day. And then at nighttime, going out, beautiful areas. Now I get to shoot beautiful wedding venues, work with new people every single time, have relationships. And so I had an awesome mentor who was able to tell me, hey, this is a model. And I was like, I don't want to shoot screaming kids anymore, but weddings are pretty cool. Maybe I could just apply that model to the wedding industry. And sure enough, like that, without that, I don't know if we probably would have figured it out. Maybe. But maybe not. Like,
I tend to think you're never going to be who you are alone, that you would be with help.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of wedding film school. That's the whole purpose of educational channels, where you're literally like, we're giving away 22 years of 30 years of filmmaking experience in the industry because we believe people need insight. And that's, I think Craig believed that, and Scott believed that, and Jason, everyone involved believes like this is valuable to people. And it's one of the relationships I think people don't think about. I think you're right. They don't often think about it when they're getting their business going. We do think of the planners and the photographers, and in getting these things is often in every one of these areas, whether it be learning the industry and knowing where the power players are, getting to know them, planners, venue people, photographers, or getting a mentor. All of it is going to come down much more to your assertiveness and willingness to go get it than you probably are going to be comfortable with at first. I oftentimes talk to people and I'm like, they're like, oh, this person, I don't know this person. I go, well, email them.
Yeah.
We'll call them. And it's like, you have to offer value. There's a way, we're not going to talk about that today. There's a wrong and a right way to introduce yourself, get connected with people. But ultimately, they're not going to ever reach out to you. Like if you want to be mentored by me and you're like, I want to run a scale business, I'm not going to email you and say like, I randomly was thinking about a random email address and I typed it in and then I just decided I want to help you. No, I'm going to be waiting for someone to call me and say, I want what you got. I want you to help me. And a planner that you want to know, they don't know you exist probably. You got to figure that out. And so I think this is a resource that you're going to have, but it's also one that you're going to require, and it's going to require actually like putting effort into it.
Yeah. And I would just add, this is kind of off topic, but in regards to having a mentor is like people's BS meter is pretty accurate. Like just be yourself. Like if you are a person and you're like, I want to work with a very specific planner and, you know, they are doing $1 million weddings and you're just getting into the wedding industry, I would probably wait on that one personally. But like there's a lot of planners out there that if you're just like, hey, I'm just getting started, this is some of my work, you know, let them decide if they like it or not. And say, hey, I want to do this type of wedding. I noticed that your style is like this. If you're ever doing like a stylized shoot, or if you ever need someone to film, you know, a video for your website, I would love to be a person that can do that for you. And just reaching out. And a lot of times just reaching out to a lot of people is more beneficial to reaching out to just one person.
You need to kiss many frogs.
That's right. That's right.
But relationship
I've
building,
kissed many and none have turned into
the prince
anything.
or princess. The relationships that you're gonna need, they are ladders that you have to climb.
Yes.
And like if you want a second shoot and you want to learn to shoot light and airy, don't email Jose Villa. You know, he's gonna not respond to you.
And you're gonna be discouraged very quickly.
Yeah. No, go with people who are accessible.
Yep.
You know, and I mean, whatever. I'm not going to stop you from shooting for the moon. Maybe you do email Jose Villa, but at the end, but don't be expecting that to be the thing that works. Like, if this is your first year in operation, like Jared said, I don't think you're going to have much luck emailing the most expensive planner in your city, because they don't need to work with you. They can work with all these great people. So it's like you work with people who need people. That is like the most important contact, is someone who needs you.
Yes, that's very true.
Find someone who needs you,
Yep.
and then meet a need for them. Just like when we talked about our business model. Who is my customer segment and what needs am I fulfilling? I don't fulfill a need for a planner who can call any filmmaker in America. They don't need me. Mm-hmm. But the planner who's starting out, who's up and coming, who doesn't maybe have all the contacts, but they have a lot of weddings, they need you.
Yeah.
They'll be helpful.
And
so,
this is probably a little bit of a hybrid between the two, but sometimes you have to pay for these relationships.
maybe not with money, but definitely with time.
Definitely with time, sometimes with money, and if that means going to engage, like we're doing in, you know, December of 2021, you guys should come. Or just buying someone a freaking fruitcake or whatever it might be online and sending it to them and saying, hey, I saw on your Instagram post that you love these, you know, here's a lemon meringue, whatever. Like, I would love the opportunity to work with you, whatever it might be. So a little bit of a hybrid.
Yeah. So
Resources.
the last thing I think, and this is where a lot of people, like, maybe you have a lot of clarity, maybe you don't have a lot of clarity, but I think a lot of creatives, this is the thing I feel like they do know, which is their portfolio, the proof of work. You must, that is one of your resources, and you have to take stock of it.
And if you don't have it, then
get it.
you got to get it quick.
You got to
Otherwise,
get it.
no one will hire you.
This is what I will say. Remember, rewind back to the hot dog stand. Your portfolio is like the raw materials of your wedding business, not your camera. Mm-hmm. The portfolio is it's akin to someone tasting your food. Mm-hmm. They don't care how it's made if it tastes good.
Yep.
Like, and so if you don't, people don't. People eat McDonald's.
They don't want to know what goes into the sausage.
They don't. If they like it, they like it. They'll just give someone something that tastes good. And if you don't have, I think most of you listening, you probably have pretty good work. Maybe you're not always featuring it in the right way. You're not presenting exactly what you want. And that's another discussion entirely. But I do think we get into the ideal client discussion right here, which is getting your business model is going to create a certain requirement financially, and so your business plan is going to be designed to help you get where you want to go, and maybe it's designed to get you a certain clientele that maybe you don't currently have now. Well, you got to get proof of work to get that clientele. That's like the most important thing. Besides, it's like relationships and portfolio. If you think you want to be an editorial filmmaker / photographer and shoot luxury weddings, you better go look and see, will my portfolio justify this conversation I'm going to have? We talk about it all the time. Am I ready? Am I ready? Are we ready for that conversation? Mm-hmm. Is our portfolio going to embarrass us? Because that's what people are going to do.
You know, we have plenty of portfolio pieces for the wedding industry, but where we struggle is, was that my chair, by the way?
Of course it's your chair.
My chair's the back is off of my chair.
I wish we could show people the chair.
Every single episode, a screw falls out. One of these times, this thing is just going to impale me.
Man, office chairs are just so expensive.
Yeah, they're expensive. But yeah, on our commercial side, we're always like, well, do we have the work up? Is it available? Like, is this going to embarrass us? Should I just tell people, like, you know, hey, you know, this is some work we've done, but we're mostly, you know, just having an honest conversation with people about what the work is. But it's a struggle for us because we just don't have as much commercial work. We're mostly in the wedding industry. So, yeah.
And we don't have the time.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's okay. And also I'm like, most of the time I'm like, if we don't get this job, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I'm not willing to do the work it requires to get all those commercial jobs.
Yeah.
But what is interesting is this is probably the part that's going to be the most fun for you if you're a wedding filmmaker, is like you're going to enjoy, you know, building your portfolio. Mm-hmm. But I do think you need to view it as a resource of the business, and it's like an every year resource. You need to always be making sure that your business has the portfolio needed to support your business plan. Because if your business plan is like to shoot 20 weddings a year at $8,000, right? Pretty good business there, pretty solid if you're able to do that. I mean, you're amazing if you're able to do that. You need a portfolio that supports it. Now, probably you'll get it. But like, what does that mean? Okay, your portfolio, by the way, we mean the work that is seen by everyone. You know, of course you have, that's a very narrow definition, but just in terms of what I'm displaying, I need enough things to show people that will generate interest in my product and allow me to be profitable. And it needs to be the type of thing that will get me to the next thing. This is not to say that you only shoot those things. That's why we're distinguishing between your portfolio that way, because I think a lot of people make the mistake of thinking like, I want to be known as an adventure person, so I only shoot adventure weddings. You're like, and then they look at their bottom line. They're making 15 grand as a business because they turn down every wedding. And they think that's how you get your ideal client. It's like, no, it matters what you put out there. It doesn't matter what you need to get paid. Mm-hmm. You know, and like, that's our belief. That's our belief. Is like, I'm not here to tell you how to like be happy shooting photos. I'm here to tell you how to make a living shooting photos or doing video.
You know, on this scale, I think there is a little bit of a trap with portfolio where it's like some people might view it as the end all be all and probably the most important resource that you have. And I'm not saying it's not important. I think it's very, very important. But it works in sync with the rest of these.
Yeah, it's
items,
important.
Right?
It is important.
As do all of these, you know, these top fives. They all work in sync with one another. The portfolio without a good relationship, you know, wouldn't have happened. The same thing without, you know, good money to buy the gear to support the
well, it's interesting.
Gear.
I think
whatever.
time and money are like simpatico, right?
Yep.
And I think portfolio and relationships are like similar.
Yep.
Like you get good
and
portfolio.
Gear and, yeah.
Well, of course, gear too. I think gear is in the middle, right? It's like playing between all of them, but like you might get a lot of money but not build a good portfolio.
Yeah.
But if you have good contacts in the industry, you can get great portfolio work.
Yeah.
Like there's going to be a time and a place in your business where you're going to look and go, okay, I'm making $100,000 a year. I'm well established. I can call this planner. And at that point, you're going to want to call planners and get those relationships going that help you get the portfolio you want. You're going to start making your decisions that later in your career you go that are much more portfolio driven.
Yep.
because you have enough demand on your business that you can still make money.
I was going to say, too, we did take out one item off of our top 5 list, which was talent. And the hard thing with talent, like we had mentioned, and the reason why we took it out is it's much harder to quantify what that is. But
Or how even the impact of it.
The
It's hard.
impact. But I do think it impacts what your portfolio is, obviously. Like, if you don't have a lot of talent, it affects what your portfolio is.
Or skill.
Yeah. So I think talent definitely plays into the role of your portfolio, and that's kind of a resource that
It's
you
a
should
tough thing.
think about, but it's hard to take stock of, right?
It's also tough because, in reality, we're not all as good as everyone else.
Sure. Yeah.
And this is the thing I always say in the industry is not everyone is as good.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone can. No, not everyone. If everyone could sell an $8,000 wedding film, then everyone would.
Yeah.
They can't. Some people don't have what it takes.
I have a question for you when it comes to this. Do you feel the same way when it comes to having a good business?
Yes and no. If by good business you mean as good as it can be, better, no. Everyone can have a good to better business. There are some core competencies required. So I guess not everyone can have the same business, but I think everyone can run a business. Not everyone can run a wedding film business, but you could run some business. I think everyone can do something that is successful, and they can use these principles to be successful.
Yeah.
Not everyone can be as successful as everyone else. And I think that's just important to get through your head earlier in your career is who am I competing with? I'm competing with myself. I'm not competing with the best person in my industry.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's not because when I say not everyone is as good, not everyone is as talented, I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm trying to get you to take that off the table of competition in your head. You're not competing with anyone else but yourself.
Yep.
So you're trying to have the best business for you.
I think there's a certain thought that, as soon as I become Alex Douglas, then I'll have a successful business. And we're saying you probably can never be Alex Douglas. Alex Douglas is Alex Douglas. He is just top tier talent. There's a lot of people that will never be able to reach that level of just pure talent. And how could they? People's backgrounds are different. People's interests are different.
You went to film school.
But then also,
did you go to film school?
But then also, on the same accord, Alex Douglas probably could never become the Grant Cardone of wedding films. He could never become the person that is just making a ton of money because he's just not built for it. He's not interested in it.
He couldn't be the Jared Haskell because he wouldn't want to sell 120.
Yeah.
You're not trying to be anyone else. What we're talking about is there are foundational things that are successful or not.
Yep.
Right. Running out of money, having money. Being bookable by the person who you can delight versus not being bookable. Pissing people off versus making people happy. That's what we're talking about.
Yep.
And so ultimately, hopefully you listen to this and you were okay, these are all the resources. I need to take stock of this. Maybe you wrote it down at the beginning of what you currently have. These are the things I have. What I want you to do now is write down what you need to get. Imagine that you're planning for 5 years down the line to the best of your ability. What would be your dream business? Right? Would it take more editing or less editing? Would you shoot certain cameras? Would you shoot in certain places? Would you certain type take that and redo it in the next section on the work thing with the business that you want. And I want you to look at the business you have versus the business you want. And I want you to see, kind of Venn diagram it in your head. Where's the crossover? Great. Those are the areas that you don't need to apply pressure to. Because they're, you keep them, maintain them, but you have the gear you need, or you have the portfolio you need, or you have the contacts you need, or whatever it is, that's great. Wherever they're crossing over, awesome. But wherever they're not, where you're looking at the business you have and the business you want, and you're seeing something's lacking from the business you have, you need to take it over, and that's what you need to do work on right now to start getting where you want to get with your, either adding the resource, hiring a person, changing your prices to get the money, buying the camera, creating the contacts, whatever it is. That's what I want you to look at doing if you're listening to this.
I might do it myself, actually, because I think we have goals in our own business, and I don't think we do this enough. I think it's a good, even annual kind of thing to go through and check yourself because, especially this time where you might be a little bit slower. So, hopefully, guys, hopefully this was somewhat helpful. Again, the whole reason why we're doing this is really just take account
to become rich.
Well, yeah, richer maybe
For us to become rich. So, give us a super sticker down there. $2.
Yeah.
YouTube.
If this has been helpful, leave a comment of to the area that was most helpful to you, or maybe questions you might have about your personal business, maybe areas of struggle that you're having, hurdles that you're having a hard time getting over. A lot of us, I think, find areas in our business that we just end up plateauing on and we can't figure out just how to get through them or get over them. Coronavirus was definitely no help this last year. But also, guys, make sure that you are checking out the Facebook group. We have a very active Facebook group where we discuss these things. If you want to ask questions of the group, do so there. Also, do all the YouTube things, give us a thumbs up, subscribe. It really goes a long way in getting this kind of message out to other wedding filmmakers. And that's kind of the point of Wedding Film School is, helping people have more successful businesses. Jay and I always say it, like only 50% of the brides out there are getting a wedding film. We think that number should be closer to 90%. And that's the goal is everyone eats. Everyone does a lot better when we all are running more successful businesses. So thank you for listening to this episode of the Wedding Film School show, guys. We love y'all. We'll see you next week.